We're firm believers that if you're looking for a close shave with minimal irritation and an experience you can actually enjoy, then a traditional double-edged safety razor is your best choice. When you do something every day, you want to make sure you're doing it right. That's why, when it comes to shaving, we stand behind the double-edged safety razor and have for years. In fact, today's video is an update to one that we produced back in 2020, and we figured the DE razor deserves to have its praises sung again. Of course, you might be asking yourself, if DE razors are so great, then why do multi-blade cartridge models dominate the market? Well, the simple answer is clever marketing. Cartridge razors are advertised as being the latest and greatest technology, easy and convenient to use, and effective. Just think of those pleasing animations of multiple blades gliding over and removing hair. But if we compare cartridge shaving and traditional double-edged shaving head-to-head, or blade-to-blade, then those marketing tricks fall away quickly. There are two major categories in which we can compare these two types of shaving and why double-edged shaving is superior, and the first of these is proper engineering versus over-engineering. What matters most when shaving is the quality of the shave, and that hinges directly on the quality of the razor. Cartridge razors create the illusion of a superior experience by piling on a lot of gimmicks. Think about the multiple arrangements of different blades, pivoting heads, or lubricating strips. These all sound neat, but when you stop to think about it, the benefits of all of these things are already represented in a traditional shave. The multiple blades, for instance, are really no different than simply taking multiple passes with a single blade. No matter how many blades you're using, you're likely to take at least a few passes at a time, and in fact, by just using a single blade, you'll be less likely to snag a hair in between blades or cut a hair below the surface of the skin, which can lead to irritation or ingrown hairs. A pivoting razor head is really no different than simply controlling the angle of your shave, which is easier to do with a smaller razor head, and you'll be able to do well with a practiced technique. And that lubrication strip will be vastly outperformed by high-quality shaving cream and aftershave balm. So, if you strip away all of the gimmicks of modern cartridge razors, you're essentially left with a double-edged razor, which really is the superior shaving method. Next, rather than piling on generic one-size-fits-all blades as cartridge razors do, shaving with a double-edged safety razor allows you to pick the ideal blade for your skin and hair types. This, by the way, is something we'll walk you through in greater depth in our dedicated video on that subject. The stationary head of a double-edged razor allows you to maneuver the blade exactly as you'd like to and be more or less aggressive, leading to the shave that's right for you. And with a DE razor, you'll be able to use those high-quality soaps and shaving creams that will leave your skin feeling better. Why can't you use these with cartridge razors? Well, you can certainly try, but oftentimes the higher amounts of lipids and emollients in these high-quality products will gum up the works of a multi-blade razor. So, when used properly, the benefits of a DE razor will not only lead to a closer shave, but a smoother one as well. As mentioned, cartridge razors take a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to hair types and skin sensitivities. So, while they may provide decent results for most shavers, they'll provide truly exceptional results to very few shavers. And they're a particularly poor choice for those with sensitive skin or especially coarse hair. So, by selecting the ideal blade for your skin and hair and using it with a DE razor, you're likely to see better results. This brings us on to our second category of comparison for today, that of cost. Speaking of blades then, let's start here by talking about how quickly they dull. Whether we're talking about a double-edged razor blade or cartridge blades, they tend to start dulling after around 3 to 5 uses, considering average hair texture. It's actually fairly difficult to keep a razor blade sharp, hence the need to regularly strop a straight razor, the most traditional of shaving methods. DE razors account for this reality by being manufactured to work with extremely simple blades that are easy to manufacture and to replace. Each individual double-edged blade will cost you just pennies by the pack, so it's fairly convenient to simply dispose of a blade when you're done using it or when it's getting dull. Compare that to the fairly over-engineered cartridge blade packs, which can cost over $4 for a single multi-blade implement. And while manufacturers claim that these cartridges are good for over 15 shaves, we've noticed a marked decrease in quality after just a few shaves with them in our own testing. So if you notice your cartridges dulling, that means you'll have to shell out considerably more cash to get new ones or settle for a subpar shave. In other words, then, this underscores how DE shaving is superior in terms of lifetime cost. Bilking you out of your money, then, is such a major part of the cartridge shaving system that it's literally the name of a pricing model in the business world, the razor and blades model. The shaving company Gillette made the conscious decision to sell its cartridge system razor handles at cost to get shavers started for a relatively low price. But those razor handles are pretty useless without blades. So Gillette made the cartridge heads expensive, knowing that everyone who already had a handle would essentially be locked into this system, unless they were wise enough to consider other options, that is. So, while you might only spend $10 to get the handle for a cartridge razor, be prepared to spend as much as 3 times that per month in order to keep yourself well stocked with blades. On the other hand, DE shaving does have a considerable upfront cost, as in order to get yourself started with a basic kit, you'll probably have to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $100. Yes, that can sound steep in comparison, but if you purchase quality tools, then you'll likely only need to make this investment once. And going forward, potentially for the rest of your life, you'll only be paying pennies per shave because of how cheap DE razor blades are. The only real expense from that point onward will be the occasional purchase of shaving cream, or if you'd like to treat yourself to a new tool. As a case study here, Raphael has run some numbers himself, and in his own testing, in order to shave as comfortably with a cartridge razor as he does with a DE razor, he would have to spend potentially as much as 10 times more per year. We'll close this section out with another cost, the cost of unsustainable waste. Both cartridge razors and DE razors will likely have to be disposed of at some point, but cartridge razors introduce a difficult to dispose of and recycle chunk of hard plastic, which often ends up in landfills. Meanwhile, the typically all-metal bodies of traditional DE razors don't really have to be thrown away, and in many cases can be refurbished if they're antiques to still be usable. And as opposed to the multi-blade implement of a cartridge razor, which again is a hunk of plastic, the blades of a DE razor are made from simple-to-recycle metal. If they're properly stored, they can be easily dropped off at a local recycling center, or even if you do throw them away, they will still take up considerably less space in a landfill. And while neither metal nor plastic is strictly speaking biodegradable, metal will break down in the environment over decades, whereas some plastics can take up to hundreds of years. With all this being said then, we don't want to overhype double-edged shaving. After all, we certainly don't want you trying to shave while wearing rose-colored glasses. We do recognize that one of the main draws of cartridge razor shaving is how simple and intuitive it is. The cartridge system does make it much harder to nick or cut yourself, though it does this generally by impeding the action of the razor blade with a safety bar. This then contributes to an inferior shave overall. When double-edged shaving, as mentioned before, you'll have full control over the blade. which means that yes, there is a slightly higher chance of nicking or cutting yourself, but will also give you a closer shave with less irritation when done well. All it will take for you to achieve this is an investment in time in order to learn how to properly use a DE razor. Fortunately, though, we've already produced several guides on the subject that will walk you through the process slowly and concisely, so you'll be able to get a fantastic shave benefiting from our years of experience. And if you've got sensitive skin, as I do, you can find DE razors on the market with a smaller blade gap, leading to a lower chance of cutting yourself. But more on this in a moment. So then, DE shaving does require special tools and a little bit more time and know-how, but we think the results speak for themselves. Before we move on, though, we will pause for a moment to acknowledge one area where cartridge razors potentially do have DE razors beat, and that is the area of airline travel. Unfortunately, DE razor blades aren't allowed in carry-on luggage by most major airlines. This means that unless you're bringing along a checked bag on your journey, where your DE razor and blades can be stowed, you may have to make do with a cartridge razor, which can be safely carried in carry-on luggage. Alternatively, though, you could opt for a different method of shaving that can accommodate being put into a carry-on bag, like an electric shaver. By the way, Raphael frequently employs a method of shaving that couples a DE razor with an electric shaver, which you can learn more about in this video. So if you're interested in using that method, chances are you'll already have an electric shaver on hand that you can take with you when traveling. This way you won't have to bother with a cartridge razor in either case. Speaking of electric shavers then, for more information on how DE shaving compares to other shaving methods besides just cartridges, our comprehensive shaving guide ebook is a fantastic place to find this information and much more. So then, have we sufficiently piqued your interest in double-edged shaving? We certainly hope so. And assuming we have, let's conclude today's video by running down the list of essential tools you'll need in order to shave with a double-edged razor. Firstly, of course, you'll need a razor body, that is, a handle and head. Unlike with cartridge razors, DE razors can be highly customized to you and your needs, with variations in weight, balance, aggressiveness, blade gap, and the like to suit your individual shaving style. And for a truly bespoke experience, you can even mix and match the handles and heads of many different razors. To use myself as a personal example here, I enjoy the narrow blade gap of the head of the Henson Shaving AL13 with the weight and heft of the handle of the Müller R89 Grand. This video isn't sponsored, by the way. I've just found that these two razor options have worked well for me. Next, you'll obviously need to load the body of your razor with a blade that suits your skin sensitivity, hair type, and shaving needs. In simplest terms here, you can consult our video on the best double-edged razor blades as a great place to start. And finally here, you're also going to want some shaving products that will help to prepare your hair for shaving and soothe your skin afterward. We suggest acquiring a quality shaving soap or cream featuring fats and emollients for smoothness, protection, and moisturization, paired with a shaving brush and mug to create a rich, spreadable lather. Your skin will thank you for not using cheap aerosol creams, which we cover in greater depth in this video. You should also procure a moisturizing aftershave or balm, and if you'd like more product recommendations for this and other related things, you can find a video featuring some of our favorites here. If you're first getting used to DE shaving, you should also consider a product that will stop bleeding from occasional nicks and cuts. Even for experienced shavers, they're bound to happen, and there's no shame in it. Styptic pencils and alum blocks are good options here, as they stop bleeding by coagulating blood at the surface. And with that, you should know all that you need to in order to try out double-edged shaving for yourself. We'd like to know then, did we thoroughly convince you that double-edged shaving is a cut above? Or are there still some Cartridge fans out there? Let us know in the comments as I go over today's outfit. In today's video, I'm wearing a relatively simple and casual outfit, the centerpiece of which is my silver-colored polo shirt. As I have for other shaving-related content in the past, I picked this shirt today as I believe its pattern is somewhat reminiscent of the knurling on a traditional DE razor handle. Most of the rest of my outfit, including my belt, loafers from J. Butler, and trousers, are all plain black, and my socks are from our own brand, Ford Belvedere. These are part of our range of what we're calling our two-tone solid designs, and they're in black and white to harmonize somewhat with the shirt. Finally today, for a fragrance, I've chosen Individuel from Mont Blanc, as I believe the silver, black, and white tones on the bottle harmonized with my outfit, and because the light and fairly neutral scent is pleasing to me. But for the socks I'm wearing in today's video, as well as a wide array of other classic men's accessories, corduroy trousers, fragrances from the Roberto Ugolini collection, and our shaving guide ebook, among others, you can take a look at the Fort Belvedere shop here.